a show. You'll feed your heart and soul, meeting people in the know. Christine's Corner, Christine's Corner, Christine's Corner.
Hi, welcome back to Christine's Corner. We have our wonderful Jean Kelley, the librarian from the Plainville Library, retired, and she's going to read again, what a delight, our children's book. Go ahead, Jean.
Thank you, Christine. It's a delight to be back here at Christine's Corner again.
Oh, it's always wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Tonight, I would like to read another book by Katherine Gibson. She's such a wonderful writer, and her books have such marvelous illustrations. The illustrator is Robert Norica. And tonight, this book is entitled, one of Sophie's books, Through Sophie's Eyes. And it's going to be a delight. In a small town, not too far from here, lived a girl named Sophie. She was like most other girls her age, except she could not hear or speak. Sophie was deaf. To communicate, she would read people's lips and speak with her hands using sign language. Sophie loved to draw pictures, read fairy tales, but most of all, she loved to dance. One of Sophie's favorite things to do was to watch people dance on television. She would look for old movies that had dancing in them and pretend she was one of the dancers. Once, Sophie went to a beautiful wedding and was fascinated by all the people spinning and twirling on the dance floor. She watched as the ladies were spun around in their pretty dresses and high-heeled shoes. She was in awe with their gentle and graceful manner. While everyone was dancing, Sophie found herself feeling the vibrations of the music coming through the dance floor. She too was swaying and dancing just like the other guests. Sophie's mum also loved to dance. The two of them would dance together for hours. They would move the furniture around and turn the living room into a dance area. One day, Sophie's mum decided to surprise Sophie with a little dance area in her bedroom. When Sophie came home that night, she was so surprised she never could have imagined having her own dance studio. The only thing that was missing were other dancers to dance with. The next day, Sophie went to school with a big smile on her face. She still couldn't believe she had her very own dance area. As she sat at her desk, the teacher passed out a flyer to the class. The flyer was from the local dance studio. They were offering dance lessons to the students at her school. Sophie was so excited. She couldn't wait to share the news with her mum. There are wonderful pictures here of her with her teacher. While on the bus traveling home, Sophie started daydreaming about taking dance lessons at the dance studio. When the bus stopped in front of Sophie's house, she leapt off the bus and went running inside. She ran straight to her mum and handed her the flyer. Sophie quickly signed, "Can I take dancing lessons? Can I?" At first, her mum was worried and signed, "The girls that take dance lessons can hear the music. They can listen for the teacher's instructions. It might be too hard for you. Sophie signed back, Mom, I could watch the teacher and follow. I don't need to hear the music. I can feel it. Her mum smiled and signed back, okay, we can try it. Sophie jumped up and down and signed to her mum, thank you, thank you. The next day after school, Sophie's mum took her to the dance studio. As Sophie entered, she stopped and looked all around the room. The dance room was just as she had imagined it. It was a large room with floor-to-ceiling mirrors and a wooden ballet bar that went down the entire side of the wall. The dance teacher went over to greet them. Sophie signed, hello, my name is Sophie. I am excited to take dance lessons. The teacher signed back, hello, Sophie. My name is Miss Helen. I am glad you're excited to take dance lessons. We will have lots of fun. Sophie and her mum were happily surprised that Miss Helen knew sign language. It was time for the dance lessons to begin. Miss Helen brought Sophie to the center of the room and introduced her to the class. Sophie signed to the girls, hello, my name is Sophie. The girls looked puzzled as Sophie used sign language to greet them. When the class started, Miss Helen signed to Sophie to line up with the other girls at the ballet bar. While the girls were in line, they whispered to one another, covering their mouths so Sophie couldn't read their lips. Sophie knew they were whispering about her. She tried to be brave, but tears began to run slowly down her cheeks. Miss Helen noticed Sophie was upset. She signed to Sophie, are you okay? Do you want to stop for the day? Sophie dried her tears and signed back to Miss Helen, I will be okay. I want to dance. Miss Helen noticed the girls were not being that nice to Sophie. When class ended for the day, Sophie quickly grabbed her stuff and left. Miss Helen asked the girls to stay. She told the girls to start stretching and she would be right back. She went to her office and returned shortly with a bag of cotton. She had all the girls take a piece of cotton and put it in their ears. Miss Helen told the girls that they would be dancing without music, like Sophie. Miss Helen signaled the girls to line up at the center of the room. She told them they could not rely on their ears to listen for the music or instruction. They had to use their other senses and feel the rhythm of the movements. Miss Helen used her hand movements and body language to guide the girls. The girls began to stumble over one another as they tried to keep their eyes focused on Miss Helen. They were tired and out of breath as they tried to find the rhythm. They did not realize how difficult it was to dance without hearing the music. When Sophie got home, her mum asked, "How was the dance class?" Sophie told her mum how the girls treated her, and she began to cry. She signed to her mum, "The girls think because I'm deaf, I can't dance." Her mum replied as she softly wiped away the tears from her face, "Oh, Sophie, you are a wonderful dancer. Don't worry about what the other girls think. Not being able to hear it is only a part of who you are. You have a special gift that allows you to use dancing as a way to express yourself. You should celebrate who you are. I do. The next day, Sophie decided to walk to dance class. She knew she could show the girls that she was a good dancer. As she was walking, it started to rain. The rain was like music to Sophie. She looked up and smiled as the raindrops tiptoed on her face. Sophie leapt and splashed through the puddles all the way to dance class. What fun. When Sophie arrived at the dance studio, she quickly changed from her wet shoes to her ballet slippers. While stretching for class, Sophie noticed that the other girls were smiling at her. One of them even waved and motioned for her to stand next to her at the wooden bar. Miss Helen began the class, and everyone watched for her instructions. Sophie noticed that Miss Helen did not turn the music on. She also noticed that Miss Helen did not give any verbal instructions. She was the only using her body movements and hand signals. To put a smile on Sophie's face, when she realized that the girls were learning to dance through her eyes, they were seeing what it was like for her every day. As the weeks went by, the girls prepared for their solo performances. Sophie practiced and practiced. It was finally Sophie's day to do her solo performance. She thought to herself, I can do this. I love to dance. I am ready. Sophie was nervous, yet she was excited at the same time. She slowly walked to the center of the room and saw everyone's eyes on her. She got into her dance position, took a deep breath, and waited to feel the music. And then she danced and danced and danced. The girls watched in awe. They started whispering again, but this time they did not cover their mouths. They were all saying that Sophie was beautiful. She was graceful. She was a ballerina. At the end of Sophie's dance, she glanced over to the other dancers to see their reaction. She saw smiles on their faces as they clapped and cheered for her. Sophie could not have been happier. As she curtsied, the dancers ran to the center of the room to join her. They all formed a circle, holding each other's hands, and danced together. Everyone realized that you do not need to be able to hear the music to be a great dancer. The girls curtsied goodbye to Miss Helen, hugged each other, and left class with a great lesson learned. That night, as Sophie's mum tucked her into her bed, Sophie told her mum how proud she felt about her performance and how she loved her dance class. The girls were so happy for me, Sophie sighed. As her mum sat on the side of the bed, she brushed her hand through Sophie's hair and then sighed, I'm so proud of you. I knew the girls would see your gift to dance. As her mum got up from the side of the bed, Sophie signed to her, I love you. And that is the end of a great story and a great positive end. And now I'd like to go back to one of the fairy stories, thank you, that I even heard when I was a little girl. So we're going back quite a way. And this is the story tonight of the 3 bears. Long, long ago, 3 bears lived together in a house deep in the forest. There was Father Bear, who was big and tall and spoke in a gruff, growly voice. There was Mother Bear, who was smaller, with a softer, gentle voice and silky fur of which she was very proud. And last of all, there was Little Bear, who was very small, like a fluffy ball. His voice was rather more of a squeak. The 3 bears were a happy family. Each bear's bed was different. Father Bear's was long and hard. He liked to feel a firm bed when he went to sleep. Mother's bear was big, but not quite as big as Father Bear's, but it was quite different. Her bed was soft and full of feathers that sank down and covered her when she lay on it, just like a bird's wing. Little Bear had a small bed, which was not too big, not too small, not too hard, and not too soft. In fact, it was just right for him. Father Bear had his own chair. This was very special. It was made of oak from the forest and was big and strong like him and had a special place by the fireside. Mother Bear had a smaller chair at the other side of the fireplace. This was softer, with a big cushion for her to rest her back against when she sat by the fire. Little Bear had a small chair that was not too big, not too small. In fact, it was just right for him. Father Bear had his own chair, and they all enjoyed their own furniture. The bear's favorite food was porridge. When Mother Bear made it in the big pot on the stove, they all liked to stir it round and round until it was smooth and creamy. Then, when it was steaming and ready, Father Bear would carry the pan very carefully to the table and pour some in each bowl. He liked a lot, so he had the most. Not so much for Mother Bear, though she did not go hungry, and the last of the pan would go into Little Bear's bowl with an extra spoonful of sugar on top, just as he liked it. One fine morning, the bears made the porridge as usual, but it was too hot to eat at once. "Let's go for a walk while it cools," said Father Bear, and they all set off down into the forest. Now they did not know it, but a little girl called Goldilocks, because she had such fair hair, was also walking in the forest. She had been told not to go far, but she loved to wander and soon was lost. She kept on along a little path until she came to the bear's cottage. "What a funny little cottage," she cried, looking at it with its crooked chimneys and thatch roof. She knocked at the door, but then there was no answer. So she peeked in the windows. There on the table, she could see 3 bowls, all steaming. "Is anybody in?" she called out. No one answered. Goldilocks tried the door. It was open, so she went inside and looked around her. The 3 chairs stood near the fire. The table was set with 3 bowls, 3 spoons, one beside each plate, and a big jug of milk in the middle. Goldilocks thought she would sit down. She climbed up into Father Bear's chair first. "Oh, you are hard and horrid," she said, jumping down. Then she sat in Mother Bear's chair. "This is better," she said, snuggling in, until she found the cushion in the way and threw it on the ground. "This looks better," she said, and tried Little Bear's chair. But Little Bear was little, and Goldilocks was much bigger, and soon there was a loud crackling sound. Little Bear's chair was in pieces all over the floor. "Oh, dear me," said Goldilocks, getting up. She looked around. "I do feel hungry," she said, and she wandered over to the table and picked up the first spoon. She dipped it in Father Bear's porridge and had a taste. "Ugh," she cried, "you are too hot and too stodgy for me." Next, she picked up another spoon and tried Mother Bear's porridge. "This is too cold and runny," she said, and threw down the spoon. Lastly, she picked up Little Bear's spoon and dipped it into his bowl. "Oh, this is just right," she said. "It's scrumptious." And she ate every scrap, even scraping the bowl so as not to miss a bit. "Oh, now I do feel tired," she said, yawning, and she looked around for somewhere to have a rest. She climbed up the little staircase. There was one big room with 3 beds set out in a row. First of all, there was one big bed that was hard and strong, just right for Father Bear. Next, there was a smaller one with a downy mattress for Mother Bear, and at the end was a small bed for Little Bear. They had its very own bedspread with a row of little bears embroidered across it, and Mother Bear had made for him. Goldilocks sat on Mother Bear's bed, but found the feathers too hot and jumped off again. Then she came to Little Bear's bed. "How sweet," she said, folding back the bedspread with the bears. Soon she was between the sheets and fast asleep. She snuggled down. This was a lovely bed. After a while, the 3 bears came home. As soon as they opened the door, Father Bear knew someone had been in. The place looked different. "Mummy, look!" cried Little Bear in his squeaky voice. "Someone has been sitting in my chair, and it's all broken." He began to cry. "Someone sat in my chair too," said Father Bear, looking very cross. "And mine," said Mother Bear. "Look, they have thrown my cushion on the floor." "Someone has eaten my porridge," said Father Bear. This was too much. "And mine," said Mother Bear. "They've messed it all up, and they have eaten every bit of mine," wailed Little Bear, crying again. It just wasn't fair. First his chair, and now his lovely porridge. "Let's go upstairs," said Father Bear. "They may still be there." So one by one, and walking very softly so as not to disturb anyone, the 3 bears went up the stairs. Father Bear threw open the door of the bedroom. The beds were all there in a row. He went to his bed. "Someone has been sleeping on my bed," he growled. "Someone has been sleeping in my bed too," said Mother Bear. "Someone has been sleeping in my bed," squeaked Little Bear. And, he squeaked louder in his excitement, "there is someone in my bed now." His voice woke Goldilocks, who sat up in bed and rubbed her eyes. What a fright she had! 3 bears, looking very fierce, were staring at her. She leapt out of bed and ran down the stairs as fast as her legs would carry her. She never once looked back. Never again did she venture into the forest. She was too afraid of meeting some more bears. Poor little bear was very sad. Someone had eaten all his porridge, slept in his bed, and broken his lovely chair. He began to cry. "Never mind," said Mother Bear, putting her paw around him. "I'll make some more porridge, and when we have a lovely breakfast, Daddy Bear will go into the woods and find some wood and make you a lovely new chair. How about that?" Little
Wow, that was great, Jean. Great reading, great stories.
Thank you. This fairy tales were wonderful.
Yes, they were.
Yes.
You did an excellent job reading them, too.
Thank you so much.
And I
It's a
hope you-
pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's always lovely having you here, coming to read to the children.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in and you watching. That was Jean Kelley, the retired librarian from the public library. We'll see you again soon.